had this job he completely earned and deserved to be collecting, what was it, $50,000 a month or $100,000 a month?
Wasn't it 80? I think it was.
I thought it was 80. Yeah,
80,000 a month. Well, I was right in between. There you go. So 80,000 a month, sit on an energy board in Ukraine, and so they decided that he was going to. Not even a case of, hey, by the way, Hunter Biden's being charged for X, Y, and Z. He didn't pay his taxes. He has a weapons charge against him. Look, now he's been convicted. He's not going to get any punishment for it. He's going to get, a fine. And
slap on the wrist. Yeah.
But that just goes to show you that we're really, doing justice here in this country. Not that him being the president's son or anything makes any difference. It does not change the fact that there is a lot more under the surface that isn't being talked about. Do you guys think that this is just the beginning, or you think they're going to successfully sweep this one away like they do so many others?
Well, because the Republicans are in control of Congress, I don't think they're going to be able to make it completely go away. Because they're going to continue to investigate the business ties of the Biden family. There was an interesting article in Public today. That's Schellenberger's outfit, I think. He didn't write it, but somebody basically wrote a pretty sympathetic article, kind of saying, he's the family fall guy. He's out there making millions of dollars for the Biden family that they've been laundering through shell corporations. And in the end, because he's the fucking family crackhead, They basically put this all on him, but he's one cog in a Biden family criminal enterprise. Are they going to stop looking into that? Are the Republicans who claim to have a lot of evidence of the Biden crime network that's pretty convincing? Are they now going to go, well, he got a slap on the wrist, let's drop it? No. I mean, they're going to continue to investigate. Are you going to get a prosecution? Of course not. Not as long as Biden's president. Now that they've set a precedent for prosecuting their political enemies, though, it could happen after he's out of the White House if he loses. They're not going to forget this. Now that door's been open. Like, if they can continue that investigation after he's out and they have prosecutable offenses, sure, man, I could see them prosecuting the whole fucking family after they're out of office.
They opened up the floodgates.
That's it. Now you made that part of the game. Now you can go after your political enemies.
I want to see the swamp drained. Trump has absolutely committed crimes, and to me, the most obvious is the violation of the emoluments clause.
Yeah. When did they ever care about that? It's not about that, and everybody knows it.
Because
you do. They don't know.
Because they all break it. They all break that law. Because look, Wasserman Schultz, we talk about it all the time. Everyone talks about what she did in 2016. She is one of the most god-awful insider traders in all of Congress. And they all are there to get rich. Like, that is in many ways their goal. And so it doesn't surprise anybody that Hunter was basically being a proxy for his father, for the family to enrich themselves. Right. And it's been doing it for decades. People are like, oh, they're innocent. I trust Joe. I love Joe. And I'm thinking, you don't know any of these people. You don't know how they think. You don't know how they operate. And believe me, you have to be pretty freaking sinister to lie on, without even thinking about it like they do. And in this case, I agree with you that Hunter is kind of the fall guy in this. He was probably put there for that purpose because he is the Fredo of the family, so to speak.
That's it.
And that's just what's happening here. And for that degree, I do feel some degree of sympathy in terms of his circumstance, because it is only going to get worse as far as I'm concerned. It's just begun. And much like Trump with the Stormy Daniels, that was just the appetizer to get him on the classified documents. And the same is going to be true when it comes to Burisma and any of that information regarding what he was doing on that energy board. That's the next step. That's the way I see it. What do you guys think?
We'll see. I mean, it's tough to imagine these sorts of seismic changes, inside the political system in a real inside baseball kind of sense, like we're talking about. I've spoken a lot about the sort of divide between a country that is sort of, very much being pushed to the brink and being torn apart and being polarized. And, it's very, very tumultuous times out here. But inside the halls of power, it seems that the normies are sort of regaining control of things. And so I don't know how much of this is showmanship. I don't know how much of this will actually follow in prosecutions and sentences. He pled guilty. He's likely to avoid jail time here. I tend to agree with Russ that they will continue pursuing Hunter as a means to get to Joe for as long as they can, or as long as they feel like they have to. Does that go away if they win? Maybe, maybe not. It's a difficult thing for me to say. It's very difficult for me to sort of discern right now where the actual politics begins and where a lot of the, sort of campaign maneuvers disguised as legal maneuvers ends, if that makes any sense. It's tough. I'm not confident really predicting one way or the other.
Jen?
Oh, well, my thoughts are that they're just going to play it as long as it's, a viable good news day and it's open for it. If something juicier came around, then maybe they would drop it for a bit and go back to it. I just think it's just something to do right now. It's just something that they're just playing. I think it's theater. And I do think that he's done criminal things. And I do think he's Fredo. It is kind of sad. I feel sort of bad for him in that way, but they're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it go. And especially not until, as long as people are going after Trump, there's no reason to think that they're not going to keep going after Hunter Biden.
No, as far as I'm concerned, make it tit for tat. Take down Hunter Biden and the Bidens and take down Jared Kushner and Donald Trump, because that's the real crime. The real crime is the proxy that Jared Kushner was for Trump and the deals that they were doing with the Saudis, whether it was in his hotel or the $2 billion deal that they got from them, which I have no doubt was probably a certain degree of peddling influence. It's just a effing cesspool of the worst kind, and people are sick of it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that I think given that tit for tat could go on forever, do they want to open those cans of worms? Like, do these people actually want to play by those rules? That's what leads me to sort of see where Jen is coming from, where it's like, to a large extent, I think this is chasing news cycles. Because do they really want to set the kinds of precedents that these tit for tat investigations and prosecutions would set? I mean, these people will all end up behind bars.
Well, that's why they
good. But are they going to do it? I mean, are they going to do it? I don't know if they're going to volunteer themselves for that level of scrutiny year in and year out.
I mean, if for some reason every political party always thinks it's never going to be out of power when they're in power, I think if they win the election, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to prosecute the Biden family. No doubt.
Well, what's interesting though, but why hasn't
if a Republican wins?
I think the reason they didn't go after Trump for emoluments is like what Peter was saying, that they all do it. So they pick and choose things that can't come back to bite them in the ass. But the problem is that when we look back, previous administrations generally don't prosecute the administration prior, because obviously Obama let the entire W administration skip on war crimes. Right. So I always think, to me, that their gauge is they're willing to go as far as it isn't something that could be used against them. So they find these things. So we'll go after Hunter Biden for the tax thing, because that's good. Well, he'll get, but if we push this issue, then they're going to start looking into that in general. So I don't know.
Well, by going after Trump, they broke the agreement. They broke the, I'm going to pretend I didn't see you here, and you're going to pretend you didn't see me here. That's how it ran. And now they broke that standard.
So what's the motivation? Do you really think the reason they went after Trump is because they're deathly afraid of him getting into the White House again and they felt they had no other option?
Yeah.
Yes. I think Trump spooked the hell out of them because they never really reckoned properly with why they lost. There's this myth of Trump's, mojo, his voodoo. I've always thought that's more apparent than real. I always thought he was the luckiest politician in history and who he got to run against.
Yes.
Yes. I've never thought that he was all that. That's a big part of why my money's been on DeSantis to win for about a year. You know, I've never bought the line that, oh, he can't be beaten, but he got in their heads, man. They believe that. They believe that Trump has some woo. Meanwhile, you got DeSantis over here who actually knows what the fuck he's doing, is going to eat their lunch. And they're sitting there terrified of Donald Trump, who never knew how to actually execute his plans and didn't really have any particular belief system to execute, even if he did. And you're going to trade him for a guy who understands how to run the government, for a guy who is not a lazy clown, a guy who is going to get up in the morning and actually execute a plan. You know, you live in Florida.
People. He's going to get up and execute people.
Yeah, he's all I can say about DeSantis, and there's a lot of, I mean, Scruffapone and, you know, a number of others have obviously, I mean, listen, our opinion about DeSantis is very simple. I thought he was without question going to be our next president up until his decision to basically ban abortion in Florida. And I thought that precedent that was set was absolutely insane. And you see other states that are attempting to do it. Granted, they're probably not going to have anywhere near the success that he has, but he has been like a bull in a china shop, and eventually he was going to run over the wrong group. And I do believe that that's something that played a huge role, especially in the Florida delegation that decided as soon as he did that, they all went and endorsed Trump. I mean, I don't think there was anything coincidental in that circumstance. It was pretty clear to me that he finally overstepped his bounds. Now, will it ultimately cost him in the long run? Look, he is banking, as we have discussed on this podcast before, he is banking on this idea that he is going to win Iowa and create the momentum that is necessary in order to become the inevitable choice on the GOP side. And for everyone out there that is thinking there's no way DeSantis can get elected president, well, here's the thing. If he wins the primary and he's up against Joe Biden, he's the next president.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Question in this world that he will flip Georgia back, that he'll flip Arizona back, that he'll probably pick off Pennsylvania, and that's it. And that's it. He's the president.
Yep.
So this idea that it can't happen is just insane.
Well, that's what I believe. That's what I believe is going to happen.
But I am curious if you guys.
And it's going to be our fault, man. Us fucking third-party assholes.
Damn! If only they got in line.
Putin puppets.
Again, if they only got in line again. So I do have to ask you guys, listen, obviously not going to support him in any way, shape, or form, but you can definitely tell that Newsom is waiting in the wings. Like he's in the bullpen.
He's chomping.
He wants to get in there, and you could see that DeSantis is trying to bait his ass to get into the race. I'm wondering if you guys think that probably is the fallback plan, but do you think there's any chance that Newsom gets in?
I mean, only if Biden drops out. He's a company man. He's not going to fuck with the head office. He's not going to do that. He's not that type.
I don't think he gets in to challenge him. He appeared in the video. The I'm Team Biden Harris.
Yeah,
remember the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. If Biden dropped out and say they anointed Kamala, would he feel like he kind of has some leeway because it's not the incumbent president? Maybe, but he won't do it as long as Biden's the
chirpings that I was hearing is that if Biden's numbers get below a certain point in the primary numbers between RFK and Marianne, that there is a reasonable chance that somebody big like a Newsom is going to get in there. Because I know, first of all, the numbers are painfully obvious. His approval ratings are in the 30s. At this stage of the game right now, when you know what's on the other side and his approvals are still that low and he's still losing universally to Trump, and we haven't even begun the campaign season when it really begins in the fall when the debates start to happen. As far as I'm concerned, they know that they are on a bridge to nowhere and they refuse to get off it. This gets back to the argument you guys have been making for a while, which is, unfortunately, the shift in the Democratic Party voting bloc, the normie Dem, the universal Dem voter that votes blue no matter who, they will go over the cliff with them. They will not look for a reason to get up. Even if the numbers are looking disastrous, this is a mistake. We're going to not only lose the White House, we're going to get absolutely destroyed in the House. This is a complete catastrophe waiting to happen. And they will not speak up. And that is, I don't know who you point the finger at directly. I mean, you could point it at Rachel Maddow, but I mean, to me, it's really bad.
No, you had it. You were right the first time. You were right 30 seconds ago. Pointed at them. They deserve it. They deserve it. Let's be real here. Let's be real here. These people are hopeless. They're hopeless. And we're not talking about all voters. We're talking about Democratic Party primary voters. I mean, look, look, Russell and I have spoken against both RFK and Marianne for different reasons. But either RFK or Marianne would still be better choice than Biden for the nomination. There's no doubt. I mean, this guy is disqualifying. So how the guy's sitting, even in a blue pill universe where it makes sense to participate in this primary, how he is blowing them out 60 points. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Well, but you're bringing up an excellent point that I just want to throw in there for you guys. You know, Marianne's campaign just lost their second campaign manager in a month. She's been out.
We're going to have a lot of fun with that tomorrow.
And if that's not enough, you got RFK now doing fundraisers with Moms for Liberty and talking about how there's a way to correlate frogs changing their sex.
Careful. He got pulled for that. Don't finish that sentence. I'm gonna bail you out there.
You know where I'm going with this. And
I do. Yeah.
Is the two of them combined.
It's not easy being green.
Yeah, the two of them combined are getting over 30% of the vote already, and they haven't even really begun. His poll numbers are in the 60s, even in the high 50s, as far as I'm concerned. That's a 5-alarm fire, and they're trying to pretend it's not really happening.
Well, because they don't think. They don't have politics. Like, if you look at it's been interesting with Biden, because however you felt about Hillary had fanatically devoted supporters. Yes. Biden has never had that. He's never had a base. So the way that the shit libs have handled Biden being president has basically been they just don't talk about him. They only make the negative case. Like, they only go, did you see what DeSantis said? Oh, did you see what Trump did? Like, they only focus on that. They just abandoned the positive case completely because they can't do it with Biden. They just can't. How do you make a positive case for Biden? But they can't actually think for themselves. They can't actually say, well, fuck this Biden guy. That would blow it. That would require them to leave the matrix. They're not going to do that. So they just focus on that part of it. Oh, these Republicans are so bad.
Right. And they have a very limited conception of what is politically possible as well. They have no imagination whatsoever because they take all their cues from media, which tells them that good things are not possible. That's why they voted for Biden in the primary in the first place. Right. If you look at, how they aligned on issues, they overwhelmingly agreed with Bernie on issues. But they were convinced by the media that Bernie was not a realistic option. He wasn't a serious choice. He wasn't electable. He couldn't implement the policies even if he did win.
And he's a socialist.
And so Biden is the realistic, electable adult choice. They bought that just as I knew they would buy that. And they're buying it this time to the point where even when, most Democrats say we don't want Biden to run again, they will, in the same exact poll, well, who are you voting for? Well, Biden. Do you want him to run? No, but we're voting for him anyway. Why? Because he's the incumbent. What are we going to do? Switch candidates? That's not possible. That's not serious. That's not what the media tells us we're supposed to do.
That's not what we're told to do. That's what it comes down to. They just do what they're told to do.
You cannot implement any sort of transformational, much less revolutionary change within a structure like that. It is impossible. It's not desirable even, right? I mean, because anything you get through them is going to be a watered down version of what has to be, because you're dealing with people who do not have it in them, just compositionally, to actually defy the will of corporate funded media heads. And so that it begins and ends there.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.